Nachi free.
Cleopatra, do you think we still have a democracy? I like to think we do. And both Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump have proven that our democracy is alive, but maybe not so well. For the many people that insist our political system is rigged, you're half right. Just like it takes money to make money, well, it takes 10 times more money to run for president of the United States, which doesn't really pay all that much money in comparison. Interesting, huh? How candidates will spend millions upon millions of dollars to get elected for a job that pays less than half of $1 million a year, around $400,000 to be exact. The real irony is that the millions of dollars spent isn't even the candidate's money to begin with. But it's no secret that there are many, many vested interests vying for power, and that's just the way life works. We're all living beings trying to secure our survival on this planet, and in a modern civilization with a free market economy coupled with a democratic government, that's how it plays out. And it's not all that entirely rigged, because the will and apparently economic frustrations of the American people have definitely been expressed through both of these candidates, particularly with Donald Trump. All you have to do is see how he laid waste to the entire Republican establishment. And I think it's great that Donald Trump has not only laid waste to the grand old party and laid bare all the hypocrisy and ineptitude of many of its career politicians, but that he also got so many people involved in the political process, as has Bernie Sanders. And for all my disdain of Bernie Sanders' socialist platform and the entitlement, victimhood, and class warfare it promotes, I actually admire his genuinely good intentions and the fact that to this day, in May of 2016, he's still standing up to the Clinton machine and the Democratic Party's own establishment and exposing them for the greedy, hypocritical, opportunistic political operatives that they've shown themselves to be. Which is why both Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders have been drawing the massive crowds they have at their own rallies, unlike many of this year's candidates from either party. But that's precisely what I'm afraid Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders have also proven. The very fear that our founding fathers had of the danger of a pure democracy, which is that it can lead to mob rule. Because let's face it, the majority isn't always right. That's another problem with a democracy. People get the government they deserve. Yet our country, in fact, is not simply a democracy. It's a constitutional democratic republic, to be precise. We democratically elect representatives to go to Washington, D.C., our capital, and through the rule of law via our Constitution, they go to work for us by creating, passing, or abolishing laws on our behalf. And regarding these crowds that Trump and Sanders gather at their rallies, at least from my window, they almost look like mob rule. And mob rule from both sides. Both the Trump supporters and the Sanders supporters are instigating violence. And what scares me is the fact that neither Trump nor Sanders are condemning the violence, especially not Trump. And Sanders outright denied that his supporters have been instigating any trouble. However, groups like MoveOn.org that have endorsed Bernie Sanders confirmed that they helped students print signs for the protests at the Chicago rally earlier this year. And therein lies the problems. The mobs are speaking. Many Trump supporters may be pro-business and all about jobs, but they are very naive to think that Donald Trump's solutions, such as building a wall to stop immigration, it's going to be beautiful, okay? And Mexico's going to pay for it, forget about it. And sparking a trade war with China by raising tariffs on imports and using eminent domain for whenever it's convenient to his bottom line, that any of those ideas are going to help Americans get better jobs. Yet Trump's overly simplistic economic solutions pale in comparison to Bernie Sanders' shamelessly socialist pipe dreams regarding free college, free healthcare, raising the minimum wage to a living standard, and a host of other programs that have proven to bankrupt nations like Venezuela and Cuba, which he still thinks are role models for when it comes to healthcare and education. Interesting how our choices for a fearless leader have narrowed down to a diehard capitalist with a dictatorial streak and a champagne socialist who admires Latin American dictators. Despite these warnings, it's becoming very clear that the mobs have spoken when it comes to choosing our next president. And like the saying goes, the problem with a democracy is that people get the government they deserve. But in my humble opinion, I think we deserve better than the choices we've arrived at for our next president. I hope I don't have to fear my next president or the mob that puts them into power. Because there's another saying from a former president and founding father. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. Thanks for watching.
Homegrown.